Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at USAGlobalTV.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us here at USA Global TV and Radio. We provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. And in 2024, this is our year where we help you, the entrepreneur, sell your vision. To learn more, contact us at usaglobaltv.com. Our show today is Coexistence and Sustainability with Pet Psychic Amina. And today we're going to be talking about plastic pollution in our coastal ecosystems. Let's welcome Pet Psychic Amina, joining us from, one would assume, sunny California. Welcome. Hello.
Hello. We've got that little haze going on over the city. If you don't know, you specifically have heard me talk about, we're in a valley. We're technically in a valley. So it kind of gets all trapped here on the hills of other side of each of us, but it's beautiful. It's a great day. If anybody wants to do photography, this is the God-given filter. Go out and take lots of pictures if you get the clouds.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for sharing that. As always, we have new people joining us all the time. We're on 10 different platforms right now. I want to say hello to our friends joining us on Instagram as well. Can you share with us, how does a pet psychic like yourself, you're a professional speaker, you're a professional trainer, you've had a lot of experience across many industries. How does that align with coexistence and sustainability?
I'm also a first responder. Certified, all that AED, all the respiration, all that type of stuff. Spend a lot of time learning how to make sure that I know not only how to bandage somebody up, but I can also get your heart restarted and it won't be yelling at you. I've seen those in the commercials. It's not a thing. What I want everybody to take away from anything that we talk about is that there's so much we can do positive and looking forward. I'm very, very fortunate to have been a fifth child with my parents, and my mother made sure that whatever her children were interested in, she made that happen. And that's when I was 11. I have a picture. One of these days I'll get it off the shelf and bring it over. I have a picture of me holding a bird of prey. And that's pretty unusual, but it's not something most 11-year-olds get to do. But I continued to study animals and be around them and not just talk to the dogs and the cats. And then I got a college education to round it out, worked in a vet clinic so that I could help people in a much broader way. And wherever you find yourself with your pet, are we talking end of life? Are we talking, finances? There's so many, sadly, when the economy tanks, people really struggle to be able to feed their pets. And so we come up with strategies and hopefully ways to get by and keep those pets in your life, because it truly is great mental health, gets you out, especially if you've got a dog or a horse or something that says, hey, I need to be taken for a walk. The cat's not so much.
Thank you, Pet Psychic Amina. I mentioned to you backstage that I saw an article somewhere about plastic bags in the state of New Jersey. And I've lived in New Jersey on and off. And I was there when they started the plastic bag ban. That's hard to say numerous times. And what was interesting is that you had to bring your own bag, or they could use paper bags, but
Right.
many of the products going into these alternatives were plastic. We're in plastics. It's just like, hello. So it seems like it goes all the way, obviously, to the manufacturers and getting them on board.
Yeah, and we all know what this really is. It's about the money.
The money.
It's about the money. And what I really love is that in the last, and let's be conservative, and I'd love to hear your input on it too, and what you see on your side of, the US. I'm on California and you're on the side, is just when something becomes not just a fad, but also becomes ingrained. And so many of us are either saving our plastic bags until they, disintegrate because we've used them so many times, which is a great thing, as opposed to just tossing them. And let me tell you now, if you decide to recycle your plastic bags, which I hope you do, and not all cities do that, but hopefully you can, either way, please, please, please cut them in small pieces. Cut the handles, cut the bag, cut all of it. Dr. Jacalyn, do you have any idea why I am stressing that you cut up the plastic bags?
They're going to be used for something else. They're easy to get rid of.
And some places are investigating doing that. If they melt them down and do this, because they do that with the recyclables. And you don't get a 7-Up Coke can and take it to the recycle center and then they rinse it out and fill it back up. It has to be recycled, and they can't do that with the metals. The bags are just depending on the cities. Now, every city has a different budget. Every city has a different outlook. So you have to go with that. We have people still that, of course, are smoking, 900 packs a day, and they're like, that's okay, I'm going to die anyway. Yeah, you're just going to die more painfully now. But, and it's like, you are an adult, you get to decide. But I want to encourage you, and you and I both know that's what we're doing here on this platform, is encouraging people to think about something first and foremost a different way. And then hopefully you'll change the way you're doing it by cutting up the plastic bags, whatever your plastic bag is. It's a wrapper around the food or over the bag, or you're carrying actual groceries in a plastic bag. And that's what the store gave you. It will save birds' lives, because believe it or not all dumps are covered. There's a ton of places where it's just a big old field way out of town and if you ever go to the dump, there's lots of treasures to be had, I'm sure, still, but there's birds there, there's squirrels there, there's wildlife there rummaging through all the food stuff. Because if you put food in your bag, it still smells, or it still has a residue that the animal can smell. When you cut up these plastic bags, you are making that first step of making sure that animal doesn't get trapped in the bag and then dies a horrible death and gets trapped in the handle of the bag. It's not a perfect solution, but it is a start. And if your recycle center will take all of that kind of stuff, sometimes they want the bags in its entirety. So I'm talking about, the little plastic ones that we get all over the place from big stores, and that's clothing stores and food stores and all that. Nowadays, you can really do well by just Googling and going to Amazon or any other shopping place, and you can buy reusable shopping bags and or luggage bags or whatever. I know we bought some bags that were technically made for shopping and or something like that. And also I got a book bag, and it's traveled with me many times. Just depends on what I needed and what would fit on underneath my seat or whatever. There are a lot of resources out there that you can get. Burlap, you can get sealed plastic where it's coated. There's just a myriad of stuff out there that you can just shop online, and they come in great colors. I know when my kids and I were swimming a lot, I had the bag where you carried all the wet towels. So it had to survive the water. Anyways, there's just so many choices now.
There absolutely are. And as you mentioned, our role here is to provide education. There's no judgment. People are going to do what it is they're going to do. Something that you said to me, maybe it was a year ago, really resonated with me. My mother used to drink a lot of Coca-Cola. That was her go-to. And the Coke came in those plastic rings. I don't even know what they're called.
Right.
And share the story about where that ended up and how it affected a creature.
Wow. Yeah. Let's see. You fill in the spots for me because I know which one you're talking about. I don't know if I'll remember all the details. What happened is these are the days where it's all just dumped into landfills. Landfills, at some point, they bring a bulldozer a lot of times and they'll cover it with dirt. But that doesn't happen every day necessarily or every moment. There is a 6-pack of those rings. So what we really beg everybody to do is cut them, because what we have seen and found, and you can look at this on the internet, nothing I don't think ever dies on the internet as far as what you can research. We have seen, especially wildlife, you see seagulls who are very, very versed on all the trash we leave behind. They are everywhere. So seagulls and dolphins and everything in between, cats, dogs, whatever, but I'm talking wildlife specifically right now. And that is one of the most painful things to watch, that animal die slowly. Because for the birds and the smaller animals, squirrels and such, they get that ring lots of times stuck around their neck. And they walk around like that. And then eventually their neck gets swollen and or something else happens. And they get hooked up onto a tree, a branch, whatever. And they have an excruciating slow death. So imagine you're suffocating. I don't know about you. I've been places where I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this is too suffocating for me. I'm too close to the wall, or I got a blanket in my face and I got to get it off. And I don't know that anybody, unless you've been through it, can imagine the pain that animal's going through for weeks or months before they actually die.
It's definitely very painful and it's very sad. And I think what we don't really take into consideration, I'm going to give an example that is not the same, but I think people can relate to it. When you are on the highway and the traffic is backed up because there's an accident, it could be backed up for miles.
Right.
So that accident takes place at one place, and then there's all this ripple effect that impacts the flow of traffic on both sides for a very long time. But we don't realize it if we're the first car, the second car. The further we get away, it's kind of like, so my point is this, that we have our trash, we have whatever products we're using in our home, and we decide we don't need it anymore, we're done using it, and then we just go, oh yeah, just throw it in the can, or I'll throw it here, I'll leave it on the sidewalk. You're going to take it out. If you drop it, it blows away. I just saw this the other day. I finally got my car washed, by the way, for the first time in 6 months, I'm embarrassed to say, because it's wastewater. I think it's just a waste of time, but I do know that you have to take care of your car. And there were some napkins in there that I was saving, and the guy at the car wash took them out and he just threw them the winds. And I was just like, oh.
That's illegal. That literally is illegal in every state.
Crazy. I don't know what he was doing.
Did you ask him if he needed a head enter,
No, there were a lot of people. I was kind of just shocked.
Right in front of you?
Right in front of me. I don't know.
Wow, that's a lot of cheek.
But so I don't even think that he realized that they're just going to start flying.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't care. Yeah.
I think we realize, because there's so many shows and notices by everything. Please put, how many times you get a little flyer or something as a picture of a trash can, and you putting something in the trash, they got pictures on the trash cans, and I don't think it's still working. But again, this is us showing that me, myself, and I are the only thing important, and I don't want to deal with these napkins, so I'm just gonna Oh, they'll blow somewhere. Somewhere, where do you think somewhere is? I hope it's your house, because that's what you just, oh, they'll biodegrade. Yeah, in 6 months, maybe, depending on what it is. Wow, I would have died. I would have died, and you're right. I would have wanted so badly to go up and say something to him.
It was, yeah, it was like nothing I've ever seen. I just, woo, there we go. Let's just throw our,
Yeah.
There was nothing wrong with those napkins. They were actually brown. They've been recycled. And I was saving them because my mom and I got them. I don't know where we went. And then all of a sudden they were out of the car, and that was the end of that. So people don't really think about what it is they're doing and how it's going to impact. Imagine if every single person did that.
Even one napkin, everybody, like in one day, and there's just only 20 people at that thing. Or you go to a concert and you see all the crap, all the Cokes and
Yes.
whatever on the seats. And I'm thinking, you know how many trash cans these big events put out, and they actually rent them? Because and again, a job I had and did events all the time. And it's just shocking to see the garbage left behind purposely. They literally, you know, ate half the hamburger or whatever, walked away and say, oh, somebody will pick it up. Okay, what's somebody's name? What hours do they work? Because I haven't met that one. Who's somebody? It's always somebody else. Well, guess what? If you decide to have children, please don't. You're going to pollute too much. You might probably just send that on to your kids. Because as children, we learn from our environment. We will learn from the people we're nearby, all that type of stuff, with a little bit of caveat of room for other things. But if one person literally picked up one napkin a day, everybody doing something like that, can you imagine how clean the world would be, and how many animals would be thriving, and plants would be blooming, and weather wouldn't be global warming? Hello, we're living through the choices we've made. And it is one napkin at a time.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to mention, I'd forgotten this. I'm just going to step over for a second and get something.
Sure.
I've written a children's book with a couple of people, and it's about ocean pollution.
Neat.
And what I just want to point out in here is that one of the little animals gets tied up in a fisherman's net.
Oh, God.
And is really, here it is. And if you can you
Yep.
see her in the net?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Lady Ella's called in to try to facilitate, but people don't really understand that things are going to keep blowing and blowing. Where are they going to end up? They're going to end up in the water probably. And there are creatures living in the water, and they're dependent on their environment. It's like if someone just started throwing trash inside your house, you open the door, they go, oh, hi, how do you like this? It have an impact on you.
Yeah, it really, really does. And an impact is pretty much everything we do, and everywhere we go. You might think, oh, it's just a gum wrapper. Well, you don't know if 20 other gum wrapper leavers have just walked through that area. We are losing so many native birds and animals and trees and plants because of this. And the wildlife are testing out all this new food we've left. And I can't tell you how many times the Fish and Wildlife and or the vets or your neighbors or something will go and have what's called a necropsy when it's an animal, the same as an autopsy in people, and they want to understand how this animal died or anything. And I can't tell you how many Coke can lids, the little pop top pieces, a piece of plastic, whatever, they're all in their body. They're all in their body because they can't process them. And so if you, for example, let's say you had a beaded necklace and it broke, what a nightmare, right? And all the beads are all over the place. So many people would just say, walk away, and the dirt will take care of it. Well, maybe in 50 years, yeah, depending on what it's made out of. But how many animals will try it, test it, see if it's food? And then the one that really liked the texture of it or whatever, they feel their stomach, We have actual proof of animals in the wild and somebody finding them dead. And a lot of times they'll do a necropsy on them when they're like Fish and Wildlife or something, and saying, wait a minute, why are we all of a sudden seeing all these animals die? Squirrels, whatever, raccoons, whatever. And they'll do that necropsy, and they usually will see their gut, their stomach full of crap. And I mean, literally not poop, but the byproduct of our trash. It is crap. It's just, it doesn't have any purpose. But these animals lose their life because they cannot process it and they don't understand what it is. And maybe it still smells like the hamburger you had or whatever. Things like gum are even more lethal because they never biodegrade in your body. That's why people shouldn't swallow their gum either. But things like that are really, really death-defyingly killing a lot of things.
Yes, excellent points as always. So obviously prevention is key. And in addition to that, we've had some people over the last couple of years, specifically from outside this country, who are actually working with fishermen and collecting waste and turning it into the recycling and turning it into furniture in some cases.
Yep.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
And I've seen a few episodes on Shark Tank, not a paid spokesperson, where people came forward. They started these businesses to actually recycle what they've taken out of the ocean. It's really interesting.
And you've got a boat, like a trolley boat, and they've got a net that they are skimming the ocean with. And this one gentleman, I saw his whole get-go, and it actually was a motorized type of netting, because they have to really be careful, because as you're cleaning all that debris, and they're getting it from about I want to say conservatively because I don't remember the details, but this is around about 4 feet down to the top of the water, ocean, lakes, all of this kind of stuff. And they pull those nets the same as when they were catching fish. They would pull those nets. Now they're trawling trash. Some municipalities are actually paying them or getting them, and they're doing the recycling, and there is money involved, because that's a lot of gas on a boat and a crew of at least 2 to 3 people, and then having the nets available. What some really sad stories, if you really want to see the truth, is there's plenty of fishermen that do the same thing. They drag a net through the water and or pretty low, and they catch turtles, they catch dolphins, they catch things that are illegal for them to fish for, but they get caught in their net, and they're supposed to cut them free and let them go. Sometimes though, not only the trauma of being netted and caught, is that a lot of times all that will cut something in their fins. They will have an injury to their nose or face and they can't breathe. So it's not just one thing. It's the combination of the experience is terrifying, and a lot of other things. If I had my druthers, and this is for somebody who's thinking, oh, I always talk to the dolphins, and that's great. Don't feed them. Don't feed wildlife. If you decide that it's been a really tough year and the drought is here and nobody's getting any food or anything because the plants didn't thrive or make the seed, then do it anonymously. Put food out where it's not necessarily tied to you. Plant a tree or a bush or a flower or herbs that animal can use. You've got bunnies running around, and have them just doing that, because they need the nutrition. Where it becomes complicated is, again, when we're the fishermen going out to get the fish and our net breaks and we just leave it there at the bottom of the lake, ocean, wherever you're fishing. So many animals die from the waste we leave behind. And that is also nets and traps and things that we didn't go back and get. And now, the nature will take care of it. No, it won't. Not for at least 5 to 12 years, or depending on the material that you're talking about. Plastic? No. It's going to be around for a really long time. Metal cans, yep, going to be around for a really long time. Piece of paper, yeah, you might have some hope there. But what's on the paper? Has it got oil, fat, pen writing? Everything's up for grabs.
Yes, I love what you shared there. And I just want to also elaborate on that. You know about the iguanas. I don't have to go into it, but in the front of the house, I notice as they have their little walkway across
Right.
the roof. Well, they're defecating as they go. And so I've just decided to see what's going to happen with it. Nothing. It's still there. It's just more of it. And so I have to go out and get rid of it, which, how do you get rid of it? You know, that's another thing.
Yeah, and for what the animal you're talking about, and the same is true. Sorry, itchy nose. And those types of things, you really, I would really suggest is, now yours is a lot more slushy and gooey, and if I remember iguana poo, it's kind of juicy, like birds. So you can't necessarily use a scoop. And that would be really great. I don't know if it would work with your plants as far as the topography you have and the weather you have. So have you looked into hosing it down every day? I mean, yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's better than stepping in it, I guess. Have you tried any of those?
Well, now that you're bringing it up, I have seen the iguana poo, but this does not look like that. So it must be some other creature because it is solid. But the point is, the sun's not beating on it and it's breaking up and disappearing. It's still sitting there. So that's what I think people don't understand, that you know, and that's another thing, as I mentioned, we have these dog waste centers,
Right.
you know, and they've got plastic bags.
Yep. On a pole that looks like, the first time I saw it is like, I'm not on a golf course. Why does this look like a golf course thing? You know, how they put a place for to wash your ball, the golf balls. Yes. I'm thinking, why, that doesn't look right. And then I got closer and went, oh, bag there, you know. And now I hope no one is doing non-biodegradable bags. They've got them for your litter. They've got them for your cats and dogs. You can carry them with. When my daughter and I would go for a walk, of course, her dog came with us. And we always had a little pat thing up that hooked to our belt. And we were all set, ready to go. And we threw them away, the first trash can we saw. So, you know, it's called being prepared. And luckily, you know, with our cats, they're all indoors. And I'm the one who cleans the box up 2 or 3 times a day because I don't like the idea of my cats stepping in it and they're walking around our house. So everybody's got to do their comfort zone. What we're trying to also get through is it's necessary in public, out amongst the trees. It is not going to biodegrade. If you have a pet of any kind, even the lizards, I don't know if everything's organic, but if you can do that way, and I don't know why you'd have your lizards or your fish running around in public, but let's just stick to cats and dogs. It is not going to wash away in the next 24 hours after the big red rainstorm. You might not see it, but it takes a long time for the soil and the plants to convert it to something they can use. It's the same thing when we digest food. I don't know about you, but if I'm having whatever, a salad or something, my body doesn't go, oh, yay, here comes salad. And immediately I have a bunch of new energy. If you drink a soda, maybe that will happen, but that's also not very healthy. So think about it and give yourself time. And think about that when you're cleaning up after your pets, it takes time. So get biodegradable bags. See if you can at least, you know, at the very least, pick it up and add it to your trash. And if not, you know, just try to, the cleaner we all eat, the cleaner we all will have our pets eating, the feces and their skin and their hair and their health will follow.
For sure. Yeah, I wanted to mention that I read another article about wearing shoes in the house. And I know I don't wear them in the house. You don't wear them in the house. But what is basically being carried into the house is E. coli from feces.
I hadn't thought of that in a long time. Because again, you're right. We all don't wear shoes in our house. And it's so, you know, my girls were raised like this. So it's not an unknown thing. And we tell people, especially if they come to visit, it's like, hey, you know, I just want you to know you're going to need to take your shoes off. And why I recommend, you know, let people know, because some people have funguses or they have shyness, or I don't know, you ran out and the only pair of socks that were clean had a hole in them.
Or your toenails are a nightmare. You know, you don't
exactly.
take
and you haven't cut them since, you know, 1912,
right.
and you were born on 1913 or something.
You know what else? And I have to say, this probably was me years ago, but not now. I loved my shoe collection, and you know, part of the outfit was the shoes. And you go to someone's house, and it'd be like, "Oh, take off your shoes." No, what about my?
What about my look?
You know, and now I'm always in socks, always.
Yeah. Well, and we find out as we age that is like, yeah, that's just not worth the uncomfortable. And you know, I tried that because I was in 4-H and we were modeling, you know, making clothes and the sewing things, and then modeling. And my mom had me doing that from the time I was about 4, and doing a couple other things for some stores. So I understand, okay, I'm now dressed for this occasion and this occasion, and I look like this. But at some point you go, can I just wear shorts and some flip-flops? And they're like, no, no, because you have to do all this. So accommodating, why I give so many possibilities of ways to comfortably do all of this. What we know about humanity is if you don't make it simple, nobody's going to do it. And recycling today is seriously simple. They have places that'll come, I know here in California, they will come and get your recycles, if especially if you're elderly and that type of stuff. Some of the clubs will use that as a fundraiser. If you can't get the cans to them, they'll come get it from you. So look into these things. If you're like, oh, but I'm never going to take it to the recycle center, but your neighbor might. If one of my neighbors came up and said, you know what, I see that you collect recyclables, because I have a big giant can. Now it's covered, but I'm sure if somebody bothered to pay attention, they would see me dumping a bunch of aluminum cans in there. So if somebody came up to me and said, hey, I don't mind recycling all these, I just don't want anything to do with taking them to the recycle center, I'm already going, I'd be glad to do it. So don't be afraid to ask your neighbors about, hey, do you recycle? I don't know how you do it. I don't know where it is. And, or would you like my recycles? There's a bunch of nickels. Somebody's getting it back, and we're all getting it recycled. Now, on the other side, I want to make sure I address this because somebody's going to have thought of it. The recycle centers are not what I was hoping that they were, you know, in the God level of they're doing the right thing and they're getting it recycled. But their recycle centers are still struggling. From what I understand, at least from my state, is they are not actually recycling still 100%. We get it to them, they sort it, but from what I understand, there's still a lot of bureaucracy, and not everything is actually getting recycled the way it should. So we've got things to do. But can you imagine if all of us start recycling? Guess what happens? Change comes faster. If everybody decides that they don't like people smoking inside, and Dr. JACALYN, you and I know we've lived through this time. Neither of us smoke, and it's like, why do I have to go to this place? Because when I was growing up, you could go to the library and somebody could smoke, and you go to the doctor's office, they could smoke. You know, everybody did. It really drove me crazy because I couldn't stand the smell. Nowadays, you can't do any of that because things changed. People stopped smoking as much, or it was less acceptable. Recycling has to follow this type of thing because we're still dealing with people. So make it easier for yourself if it's difficult to get things done. For me, I have a really giant old trash can where we don't, the city has trash cans specifically for our neighborhoods. So I have this big green trash can that just sits around. Well, I fill it with all the recycles, and it fits in the back of our car. the lid clamps down and stays locked in. And every time I fill that up in another container, it all goes to the recycle center. And then we do, my friends and I, or my daughter and I, we then like splurge on a expensive dinner or something like that we wouldn't normally do. And it's only me. My daughter's not, you know, doesn't take that time to do that kind of thing. And that's okay. You only need one person to get the cans and have them picked up. It's really that simple.
All nice and neat and a little bow, a little.
I hope so, because you and I both know nobody's going to do it if it's difficult.
Yeah, it's true. And something else I just wanted to mention, if you think about it, we've read these stories or seen them where someone puts a note in a bottle, literally in one country, and it's found somewhere else. That just goes to show you how things can move from one part of the world to another.
That's perfect. I haven't thought about that in a long time. I remember it was very batty in the 40s and 60s, and I'm not even talking about pirate days. If that's true, because I only saw it in movies. And where they're putting notes in bottles or the map to the treasure and how many TV shows
for that one.
But your point is so true, is so spot on. Thank you for enlightening us. That was perfect.
Yeah, so I think what I really want people to kind of take away is that in our own little world, in our own little space, we think it has no impact on humanity and on planet Earth, etc. But it truly does. And I'll give the last example, and I'm not bringing up the iguanas again, but I am, because they're not native to here. Someone brought them here. And so brought one, brought two, and then they multiplied and so on and so forth. And so what we do as humans has consequences to this planet. And that's what we're here bringing this information. So what would you say are some good tips, some thoughts that you had for people if they are interested in changing their behavior, but they just don't know exactly what to do?
I'm going to repeat what I've said is pretty much on anything you want to change. Let's say you want to eat more organic, but you don't like organic food, or you think you don't, or you haven't tried it all, or you wanted to learn to play piano, but you get tired. Whatever new thing you want to do, you want to go for more walks and start that with your health. Drink more water. Pick something. It's irrelevant to my example, I hope, is just try it. Do it once. If it's uncomfortable, if it's silly, or whatever negative feelings that you have about doing this thing or trying something new, just do it. Because it doesn't matter what everybody else thinks. Let's say you've always wanted to try mascara. I find it a pain in the butt to put on anymore. So I just don't bother with it anymore. But I went through plenty of years where I did. And would I go back? Maybe. If I was going to something fun. But what men out there don't understand is it's an art to not get it all over yourself. But that's practice. So if you want to start recycling, don't beat yourself up. If you want to make sure you don't throw any trash on the ground, great. Have a pocket that you can put it in. And as soon as you get near a trash can, you just throw it in the trash. I've done this hundreds of times. And it took me time in the beginning to go, okay, I'm not responsible for every single piece of trash. I do not need to pick it all up. And I tend to be a little overzealous sometimes. But start where you can be. Start and be kind to yourself, and know that starting a new thing, if that's drinking more water, taking longer walks, calling your mom on more than just Mother's Day, talking to your siblings more than on their birthdays, whatever the change that you feel is really positive in your life. And for me, picking up trash is part of that, because now I know that one piece of paper, which could have just fallen out of somebody's pocket. So I don't quantify about how the trash got there, because believe it or not, When the trash man comes and I see 5 of our neighbors, our garages face each other, so all our trash cans are out there, and there's trash floating from when the trash man dumped it. That's not his fault or her fault or the mechanism. Sometimes the wind is just heavy, but that also means that I'm going to go out and go pick it up because I don't want it to be there. We don't have to be responsible for everything. I'm trying to give you a broad look at the small things will become so vital to the animal that didn't choke on something that had food scraps on it. And God forbid it was made out of foil or something, and they got it choked down and it killed them. And it would have been a slow, horrible death. Birds eating things that aren't worms and things that aren't in nature. If you've never seen an animal eat human food on a regular basis, and I'm not talking about the organic stuff that's made for the dogs and all that, but wildlife, and their feathers, their fur, whatever, they look off. I've seen a wild animal actually look greasy, and we couldn't figure out why until I started being able to sit outside and then watch the animal while I was working or looking out the window, and found out he was dumpster diving, and he was always attracted to the fast food, the greasy stuff, the cheese, all of that kind of stuff. So it really, really helps if you have a lid on your trash. Does it sometimes blow away when the trash man puts it up in the big jar? Yeah, that's what I do. I go out when I go to put the trash can, hiccups, put it away. I also go pick up what it is. I put it in the trash or the recycle, go wash my hand, and on with my day. It's literally that simple, as long as we get out of our own heads. But don't beat yourself up if you want to start small. Start somewhere. Because can you imagine, Dr. Jacalyn, if we got 20 people and they all sent me a picture, I hope you do, bridgingworlds.us, and that's my website, and show me, and we all celebrate each other. I will put together a post with pictures of whatever you send me. It doesn't have to be of you. It could be your hand picking up litter, and you to give us this city and state, or at least the state, but I'd love to see everybody from all over. That would be so cool. And if you do this, if you pick up even one piece of trash, and you send me a picture of you doing it, and I don't have to have a head, I can see your email or wherever it's coming from, I will give a 15-minute reading and help with training with your pet for free.
That's amazing, Pet
How's that?
That's
motivation.
Yes, thank you. That's amazing. It's a great way to close out this episode. Thank you. We have your contact information, especially for people on the audio platforms who might be listening to this now or later. Please go to bridgingworlds.us and on Facebook, Bridging Worlds. You can also find Pet Psychic Amina on LinkedIn. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for sharing this space with me about plastic pollution and coastal ecosystems. We'll look forward to seeing you again next Friday, everyone.
Absolutely.
Go to our YouTube channel, USA Global TV and Radio, and subscribe. Bye.
Absolutely.
Now. Take care.
Everybody.
Bye.